A serial killer is on the loose, and an unexpected, or maybe expected couple hooks up on Shadowhunters. Let's break it down on what happened. How's it going, y'all? Lisa back here with another recap of Shadowhunters, this time all about the episode titled Those of Demon Blood. Now this episode actually might be one of my favorites so far this season, just because I was actually drawn in for the whole episode. I think mainly it's because I'm actually just a sucker for those murder mysteries and the whodunit type shows, and that's what Shadowhunters was tonight. In fact, it's kind of like, am I watching Dexter or SVU for a second? So in this episode, we get the usual, Shadowhunters versus the Downworlders, Jace dealing with his identity, you know what I'm talking about, but there are a few surprises. So this episode revolves around a killer on the loose who is killing Shadowhunters, and not just actually killing them. They're taking it a step further. They're also cutting out their runes. Yeah, we even get to see that kind of goriness where you see the patches of skin missing. It's a little bloody. Well, each Shadowhunter is being killed in a different way, some by mauling, others by blood draining, which is making it look like the Downworld has revolted, and there's not one suspect since it seems like the killers are coming from werewolves and vampires. So what can the Clave do? Go after everybody. It looks like the Downworlders are killing Shadowhunters, most likely as revenge for all those Downworlders who were killed by the Soul Sword at the end of last season. So the Clave is on high alert, and yeah, like I said, no Downworlder is safe. The Inquisitor, who I still kind of really don't like, is out for blood and answers. So Luke is brought in for questioning since one of the Shadowhunters had claw marks, and Luke's like, yeah, you can have my DNA, and he offers it up to prove his innocence. So this kind of puts an idea in Jace, Clary, and Izzy's head that they go out and talk to their pals to maybe kind of get ahead of the situation and go ahead and get their DNA to clear their names. Also included in that I just forgot to mention, is Alec. So yeah, so they're gonna go off and see Magnus and Raphael and Simon, try to figure this whole thing out. Well, during all this, Jace is also appointed by the Inquisitor as the head of the Institute for when she returns back to Idris, and while Jace says, hey, I think Alec is a better fit, that Herondale name is basically royalty in the Shadowhunter world, and yeah, Jace has to live up to that name, so he gets the position.
Yes, Mr. Lightwood certainly is one of our best and brightest, but I'm appointing you, Jace.
And throughout the episode, Jace is actually kind of caught between doing what his grandmother, the Inquisitor, wants, what his name holds up to, and what his gut tells him to do. Now, Magnus isn't happy, but gives Alec a strand of his hair. Simon refuses to give up his DNA and tells Clary the story of his grandmother to explain why he won't give it up. And as more Shadowhunter bodies are found, more of the Downworld becomes suspects, as we also have bodies killed by Seelies and Warlocks. Now, everyone's really kicked into high gear when Clary ends up being attacked, but is saved just in time by Simon. When Simon refuses to leave Clary's bedside, the Inquisitor has him locked up, and then the Inquisitor has this bright idea and says, you know what? Hey, you know how we can track Shadowhunters by their runes? Let's plant some GPS trackers in all of the Downworlders. Well, Alec isn't the only person who isn't a fan of this whole tracker idea, actually. Only Jace and the Inquisitor are probably in favor of it. In fact, when Jace shows up at the Hunter's Moon to start the implanting process, he ends up face to face, or should I say face to fist, with Maya. Yeah, Maya's not having it. The two get in a fight, and Maya's pretty much kicking Jace's ass. But unfortunately, she's kind of distracted with beating up Jace. It gives his little partner time to plant the chip in the back of Maya's neck, and Luke tells Jace, hey, if you wanted to revolt, this is how you get it started. Later, Maya is brought in, arrested basically, and locked up with Simon because a Shadowhunter was killed, and minutes later Maya was seen like a block away where she was actually just walking home from work. Now, Simon and Maya actually have some cute moments down in their cell together. She tells Simon not to screw things up with Clary, and Simon's like, oh, I think Clary might be growing on you. Yeah, you get it. And then Jace comes to his senses, and he and Clary actually show up to let Simon and Maya go free. And we even get an apology from Jace to Maya. Meanwhile, Izzy has met up with Raphael in hopes of getting his DNA to clear his name, but it actually turns out that Raphael might have the key to what is going on. Raphael drops some knowledge bombs on Izzy, telling her that a long time ago, Shadowhunters actually hunted Downworlders for sport, and they ended up taking their fangs, claws, warlock marks, things like that as trophies. Well, then back in the 80s, a bunch of Downworlders came together to make demands to the Clave, but they couldn't agree on anything, so things became ugly, and there happened to be this one Seelie Knight who then suggested that the only way to gain the Shadowhunters' respect was to take their runes in the same way they took their signifying things in order to show how dangerous they are. Now, who was that Seelie? Meliorn. So now to complicate things even more for Izzy, her little brother Max is now at the Institute ready to start training, but as most little brothers do, they end up getting in freaking trouble and almost getting killed, right? Well, Max thinks that he's already ready for battle and ends up following Izzy and Raphael, which, you know, like I said, means trouble. So the two discover Max in the alley and tell him to stay put because Raphael has picked up the scent of Shadowhunter blood and they want to keep Max safe. So they continue through the alley to find a Shadowhunter body on the ground, and who is standing over it?
This is not my doing.
Now, he says he was also tracking the killer, but of course Raphael does not believe him. However, Izzy actually does. Meliorn tells them it's a Seelie who has done the killing and that he can help them track the killer. So they go back to find Max, who of course is now missing. And we see Max wake up in this Dexter-like torture chamber that we've seen glimpses of throughout the episode. So who is this killer? Turns out to be a Seelie named Kaylee, who we actually saw earlier in the episode, who wasn't so happy with Jace. In fact, at the Hunter's Moon, she poured a shot on him. Izzy, Meliorn, and Raphael actually happen to show up just in time because you can't really kill a little boy, right? That would just be really cruel on this show. But they show up just in time before Kaylee can hurt Max and Izzy ends up killing her. So now that the killer has been discovered, the Clave are going to investigate more, but things seem to be getting back to order, kind of, as Jace decides that for his first official act as head of the Institute, he's going to appoint Alec to take over as head of the Institute. And what is Alec's first mission for Jace? It is to go remove those trackers from the Downworlders that they implanted. Alright, so that's kind of the main meat of this whole episode. There's some other things that happen. We also see Magnus kind of in a really dark spot. But I mean, who can really blame him after everything he went through in the last episode with the torture, being stuck in Valentine's body? Definitely some trust issues going on there, as we saw that he was really mad at Alec wanting, you know, his hair. But we do see Alec and Magnus make up by the end of the episode. Simon himself is now kind of a rock star in more ways than one. When it comes to the other vampires who now know he's a daylighter, they think they need to follow him. They think that he is this fearless leader that they've been waiting for because of all the myths they've heard. So yeah, they offer their services to him. Although there seems to be kind of one vampire who's a little iffy on that. But yeah, Simon isn't really ready for all these vampires to follow him. He doesn't think he's anything special. And also Simon gets back into his music. He's dropped the band. He's now performing as just Simon Lewis. And at the end of the episode, we see him perform a song at the Hunter's Moon, which is kind of, for a moment, brings everyone together.
The world I've come to know is a replica.
And if you like the music that was happening there, it's actually going to be available on July 21st, I think, along with some other original music that's appeared on Shadowhunters. And yes, like I mentioned at the very top of this recap, which I now have seemed to have kept for last, there was kind of an unlikely hookup, or maybe not unlikely. And by now you've probably guessed who that hookup was, right? Well, if you watched the episode, then you know for sure. If you didn't watch the episode, you must just love spoilers if you're actually watching this recap. But it was Maya and Jace who hook up at the end of this episode. Now, I feel like with the way their relationship is, the banter that they have, the little like, I hate you but I don't hate you type thing, I feel like there's been an underlying sexual tension ever since they met. But it really is at a peak in this episode. So at the end, we see Jace come remove Maya's tracker, and she tells Jace that, you know, he almost let the Downworld go to hell because he's still in love with Clary. And then Jace goes, I'm not in love with Clary, so what does Maya say back?
Prove it. Don't think this means anything.
They'd end up getting it on in the alleyway, and it's kind of like, oh, what a romantic setting, right? But you know what? I kind of like these two together. It's a fun dynamic, and I mean, don't you know from grade school that, you know, the boy teases you a lot, he probably likes you. But in this case, it's kind of Maya doing a lot of the teasing, but you get the idea, right? Here's the thing though, is this just gonna be a one-time hookup, or is it maybe gonna go on for a bit? Alright, so what's in store for the next episode? Well, a lot of Seelies.
I need you and Jace for a mission. Go into the Seelie court.
Seelies can expertly manipulate the truth, and the Queen's the master.
What could go wrong?
Don't touch or smell anything.
I know Clary would never turn on me. Wait, that's the Queen?
Let them go.
The kiss that will set them free is the kiss you most desire.
And now looks like the Seelie Queen will be arriving in the next episode, and while the announcement of who is playing her isn't official, most people have kind of figured it out. A few weeks ago it was announced that Sarah Hyland, Dominic Sherwood's real-life girlfriend, and also you know her from Modern Family, would be guest starring on around 2 episodes of the show, but her role was being kept under wraps. Well, if you watched the preview and you listened very carefully to when the Seelie Queen talked, even though there's some filtering on it, it sounds a lot like Sarah Hyland's voice. And actually, she seems to agree. She even took to Twitter to fuel those rumors. Plus, the quick glimpse that we actually got of what seems like the Seelie Queen, she looks pretty petite and, you know, small, which Sarah is. So I guess we've figured out who Sarah is playing? Hopefully, maybe? Thoughts on that if she is the Seelie Queen? Now it's time to sound off on this episode. What do you think about the killer reveal for the episode? Also, what was Sebastian up to during this whole episode? After being so eager to help in the last episode, he is actually nowhere to be found in this one. Which is why at first I thought maybe, ooh, it'd be kind of cool and twisty if he was revealed as the killer for some reason, right? Not sure why, but could have been a fun twist. Plus we've seen that he kind of has some violent streaks in him maybe when he was burning his hand. Anyway, do you think the Downworlders and the Shadowhunters are now on the path to making peace? What do you think about this whole Maya-Jace hookup, and maybe how long do you think it's gonna last? Are you for it or not so much for it? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below or on my social media, and then you can click right over here to see my interview with the cast of Rough Night. And if you like what you see, feel free to hit this little subscribe button. If you don't, thanks for stopping by anyways, and as always, I'm Lisa. I'll see you next time.